The sun was setting behind the tall buildings of our city, casting long shadows on the pavement. I was walking home with my son Malik after a long day at work. As a single mom, I juggled 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Malik was only 8, but he understood that things were tough for us. He often asked why we couldn't afford certain things, and I did my best to explain without burdening him. That day, I had promised him we would stop by the park before heading home. The park was small, but it was our little slice of happiness. As we approached, I saw a group of kids playing soccer, and I could feel Malik's excitement rise. I watched him run off to join them, his laughter ringing in my ears. But that joy was short-lived. As I sat on a bench, I noticed 2 police officers standing nearby, watching the kids play. At first, I thought nothing of it. They often patrolled the area, but something felt off. They were whispering to each other, glancing in our direction. My heart sank. I tried to shake off the feeling, focusing on Malik, who was now kicking the soccer ball with a group of kids. Suddenly the officers approached me. "Excuse me, ma'am," one of them said, his tone sharp and dismissive. "We need to ask you some questions." I looked up, taken aback. "About what?" "About your son. We received reports of suspicious behavior in this area." My heart raced. Suspicious behavior? He's just playing soccer with his friends. The officer crossed his arms, his expression hard. "We need to check if everything is okay. Can you provide some identification?" I felt a wave of anger and humiliation wash over me. I fumbled through my bag, pulling out my ID and handing it to him. "I'm just a mom here with my son. We're not doing anything wrong." The officer took my ID but didn't look at it. Instead, he turned to Malik, who had stopped playing and was now looking at us, confusion etched on his young face. "Hey kid, come here." I watched in horror as Malik approached, his eyes wide. The officer towered over him, and I felt a knot form in my stomach. "What's your name?" the officer demanded. "Malik," he replied softly, looking up at the officer. "Do you know this woman?" "That's my mom," he said, pointing at me. The officer didn't seem satisfied. "And where do you live, Malik?" I could see the fear in my son's eyes. I live with my mom." "Is she a good mom?" the officer pressed. I couldn't take it anymore. "What is this? Why are you questioning my son like this? He's just a child." The officer's partner stepped forward. "We're just making sure everything is all right. It's our job." At that moment, I felt so small, so powerless. This was not just an inquiry. It felt like an attack on my dignity as a mother. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I knew that could make things worse. Just then, I saw a familiar face approaching. It was my friend and lawyer, Sarah. She had always been a strong advocate for our community, fighting against unjust treatment and discrimination. The moment she spotted me, her expression shifted from casual to serious. "Officer, what's going on here?" she asked, her voice steady and confident. The officers exchanged glances. "We're just conducting a routine check," one of them replied, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. Sarah stepped closer to me, her presence immediately calming. "This is a clear case of racial profiling. You have no right to question this mother and her son without cause." The officers shifted uncomfortably. "We're just doing our job." "Your job is to protect and serve, not to harass innocent people," Sarah shot back. "If you have no evidence of wrongdoing, I suggest you back off." I felt a rush of gratitude for Sarah's support. She understood the struggles we faced and had always been there for me, especially during tough times. "Thank you, Sarah," I whispered, my voice trembling. Malik was still standing nearby, watching with wide eyes. I could see he was scared and confused by the whole situation. I knelt down to his level, holding his shoulders. "It's okay, baby. You're safe. These officers are just doing their job, but we have a right to be treated with respect." Sarah turned to Malik, speaking softly to him. "You're a brave boy, Malik. Always remember that it's important to stand up for yourself and others." The officers looked like they were losing their nerve. They exchanged glances again, clearly unsure of how to proceed, with Sarah standing firm beside me. After a few tense moments, they finally handed my ID back. "All right, we'll let you go this time," one of them said, his tone begrudging. "Thank you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But I felt a lump in my throat. It wasn't just about the incident. It was the feeling of being belittled, of being treated like a criminal when I was just a mother, trying to protect her child. As the officers walked away, I turned to Sarah, my relief mingled with anger. I can't believe this happened. I just wanted to spend some time with my son. You did nothing wrong, she assured me. But this is a reality many Black families face. It's unjust, and we have to keep fighting against it. I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. I just want to raise my son in a world where he feels safe and respected. Sarah pulled me into a hug, and I felt the warmth of her support. You're doing a great job, and you're not alone in this fight. We'll keep pushing for change together. As we walked home, Malik held my hand tightly. I could feel his little fingers trembling. Mom, are we okay? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, baby. We're okay, I replied, trying to sound strong for him. But inside I felt a mix of emotions, fear, anger, and a fierce determination to protect my son. That night, as Malik drifted off to sleep, I sat by his bedside, watching him. I couldn't shake off the events of the day. I thought about all the times I had to explain to him why the world could be unfair. I promised myself I would do everything in my power to keep him safe and ensure he never felt less than anyone else. The next day, I called Sarah. I wanted to take action. We discussed filing a complaint against the police department for their behavior and how to raise awareness in our community about racial profiling. As we brainstormed ideas, I felt a spark of hope. I wasn't just a powerless single mom anymore. I was part of a movement, and I would fight for my son's rights and the rights of others. Over the coming weeks, we organized community meetings, inviting other families to share their experiences. It was heartbreaking to hear the stories of so many who had faced similar situations. Together, we formed a support group, a safe space for parents to talk about their fears and struggles. One evening, we held a rally in the park where Malik had played soccer that day. I stood before the crowd, my heart racing but my spirit soaring. We are here to stand up for our children, for ourselves. No more will we allow fear to dictate our lives. The crowd cheered, and I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. Malik stood beside me, his little hand in mine, and I knew I was doing this for him. As the rally continued, I saw the faces of mothers, fathers, and children who were all united in this fight for dignity and respect. We shared our stories, our fears, and our hopes. In the face of adversity, I found a strength I never knew I had. I learned that even as a single mom, I could make a difference. I could fight for a future where my son would feel safe and proud of who he was. The officers who had confronted me that day never returned to the park. I don't know if it was our rally or the complaints we filed, but I felt a shift in the air. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. Through it all, I learned that the journey wasn't just about me or Malik. It was about all of us. Together, we could challenge the status quo, challenge the injustices that plagued our communities. As I tucked Malik into bed each night, I whispered words of encouragement, reminding him of his worth and the power he held within himself. I wanted him to grow up knowing he was capable of creating change, that his voice mattered. I may have started as a single mom feeling humiliated and powerless, but I emerged as a warrior for justice. And in that transformation, I found hope, not just for my son, but for all the children who deserve to live without fear. In the end, it was love that fueled my fight. Love for my child and love for the community we belonged to. And as long as I had that, I knew we could face any challenge that came our way.